More than bananas, how the Christian faith works for me and the whole universe.
Episode 10. The Loss and Profit Account. If God does speak through prophets, and if the Bible is their stories collected together, we straightway come to further problems. Isn't this book, for example, just a bunch of fairy tales, frequently altered, contradictory, not to mention old-fashioned, and even, good grief, not up to 21st century standards of scholarship, general coolness, or absence of patriarchal language? It's possible you may have inadvertently stepped into a pile of dogma. I find the Bible authentic and robust, so long as you understand it as the threaded together accounts of people meeting God, and God overflowing their language as he must in every age. Parts of the Bible date back to the Middle Bronze Age. Others are more recent than the golden era of Greek literature. Parts are presented in literary genres that hardly even exist today, such as religious history. Some of it is law code. Parts are sublime. Others, frankly, odd. No text from antiquity comes near it for the quality and range of its sources. Once you stop pretending it's something it isn't, namely a modern book, it emerges like the San Gabriel Mountains when the smog around Los Angeles suddenly clears. Massive, daunting, unbelievably near. Until you've read it, seriously read it, like you have to work hard to read any serious book. Perhaps you shouldn't be so quick to criticize it. You at least can read it and form your own view. A bigger problem to me is all those who are never able to read it. How is that fair? Most of the Bible's stories happen among the Jewish people. This is fine if you are Jewish or from a Christian background which has grown out of Jewish roots. It's especially convenient if you live today and speak English. All the revelation and history is available for you in a variety of helpful formats. Nor are other languages neglected. Christian missionaries and local Christians over the centuries have almost single-handedly put all the world's languages into writing. All except 200 million people today enjoy access to at least part of the Bible in a language they can understand. None of this is much use if your slot in history came and went before the Jewish people even started their sad march across the earth. Our understanding of prehistory may change, but the view today is that humans just like us had already walked from Africa to Australia 40,000 years ago. Perhaps people who are recognizably like people today have been on Earth for 50,000 or even 100,000 years. With a bit of hand-waving maths, you can guess that means perhaps 100 billion souls have already traced their course through history. The numbers of people on Earth today are dwarfed by the number who have gone before. For every one of us milling about in the streets and filling the shopping centres, another 11 have already lived and died. Perhaps half of these were children or babies. Nearly all of them were excluded from prophetic words from God. Even today, plenty of people have access to a Bible but belong to a cultural world that doesn't treasure it, or believes it's been altered, or that teaches people to be suspicious of it. Can you meet and serve God if you've never heard of him, or if you belong to another religious heritage, or read another holy book? If so, how? And if not, why not? How fair is it to be excluded from God's love by being born in the wrong millennium or having the wrong postcode? It can't be true that all religions lead to God, any more than all roads lead to Wolverhampton. They all disagree with each other. They can't even agree on what to fight over. So how can you find and serve God within another religious framework, or when your era in history is tens of thousands of years ago? Near the end of his time on earth, according to the Gospel writer Matthew, Jesus told a story about the Last Judgment. Like all Christ's stories, it's passed into cliché and become part of our language. It's a haunting story, almost nursery rhymish in its brutal simplicity. The early church believed it came from the mouth of Jesus, and they would know. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him. He will sit on his throne in heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me." They will also answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger, or needing clothes or sick or in prison, and did not help you?" He will reply, "I tell you the truth. Whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me." Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. Presumably Jesus was not kidding when he told this story. Presumably he meant it. Let's note a couple of things. One, it's universal, about everyone who's ever lived. Two, the note of surprise. Here at the end of everything, everyone knows who the king is. They can see him in front of them, revealed at last. Back when they were living their lives, however, they didn't know they were serving him. They may not have known his name. The fall story is about pride toward God. The sheep and goat story talks about compassion to people. Are these perhaps two halves of a whole? Does a proud independence towards God also cultivate a certain hardness towards our fellow humans? Does a humility towards God lead to a softness and compassion towards people too? Perhaps. Across the ages, the goats are the people who think they are good, and the sheep are those who've discovered they fall short. Actually, goats seem to be a lot more resourceful than sheep. Sheep seem so stupid and panicky, bleating at each other all the time. Generally, I prefer to be a goat, but perhaps the goats are those who think themselves righteous, and the sheep have come to understand themselves and everyone else as sinners. This may seem all wrong, but seeing yourself and others as no-hopers and spiritual basket cases may be a trapdoor into the loving arms of God.